The rain hammered against the terracotta roof like it was trying to drown out the secrets we'd buried in this old Spanish villa. But it couldn't touch the fire raging in my chest. I stumbled back from Alina's lips, soft, insistent, tasting of salt and forbidden olive wine. As the world tilted on its axis, her hand still tangled in my damp shirt like she could anchor me there forever. "Jamie," she whispered, her voice breaking like the thunder outside. "I've been lying to myself for months. It's you. It's always been you." I was 24, fresh out of a dead-end graphic design gig in Seattle, chasing some half-baked dream of reinventing myself in the sun-drenched chaos of southern Spain. My sister Allison had dragged me here 6 months ago, her latest escape from the grind of American corporate life. "Come on, Jamie," she'd said over crackling FaceTime, her blue eyes sparkling with that infectious optimism that always made me cave. "Spain's got vineyards that stretch to the horizon, flamenco that sets your soul on fire, and enough heartbreak to write a novel. You'll thank me." Allison was 27, the golden child who'd aced law school at UCLA and then promptly quit to find herself in Europe. She was all sharp wit and sun-kissed curls, the kind of woman who could charm a room full of skeptical expats into spilling their life stories over tapas. And then there was Alina. Alina. 26, with that effortless Spanish-American grace. Her parents had fled Franco's shadow for California when she was a kid, but she'd come back to Andalusia to reclaim her roots. She was Allison's girlfriend, the one who'd swept into our lives like a warm Sirocco wind during a weekend trip to Seville. Tall and lithe, with olive skin that glowed under the Mediterranean sun and dark eyes that held stories of old-world passion, Alina was a painter, her canvases splashed with the raw reds and golds of flamenco skirts and bullring dust. Allison met her at a gallery opening, where Alina's work hung like whispered confessions. "She's magic, Jamie," Allison had gushed that night, her cheeks flushed from Rioja. "Like she sees right through to the parts of you you've hidden away." I'd nodded, forcing a smile, because that's what little sisters do. But from the start there was something electric in the air whenever Alina and I were in the same room. A pull, subtle at first, like the tide tugging at your ankles before the wave crashes. We'd bond over late-night sketches in the villa's overgrown garden, her charcoal smudging my fingers as she laughed at my amateur attempts to capture the jagged silhouette of the Sierra Nevada mountains. "You're too precise, Jamie," she'd tease, her accent a melodic lilt that wrapped around my name like silk. "Art's about the mess. The heart spilling out." Allison would join us eventually, draping an arm around Alina's waist, and I'd look away, pretending the knot in my stomach was just the paella sitting heavy. Our villa was a crumbling beauty on the outskirts of Ronda, perched on a cliff where the Guadalquivir River carved through the earth like a vein of liquid emerald. It was the kind of place that felt suspended in time. Whitewashed walls etched with bougainvillea, a courtyard fountain that gurgled like forgotten gossip, and rooms that echoed with the ghosts of Moorish poets. We'd rented it cheap because the roof leaked in the winter rains, but to me it was a sanctuary. Or it had been until tonight. Allison was in Madrid for the week, schmoozing investors for her fledgling nonprofit. Something about sustainable olive farms empowering local women. "Don't burn the place down without me," she joked at the train station, kissing my forehead before pulling Alina into a deep, lingering embrace that made my throat tighten. "And keep an eye on this one," she'd added, nodding at Alina with a wink. "She's got a habit of wandering into trouble." Trouble. If only I'd known. The storm had rolled in from the Atlantic just after sunset, turning the sky to bruised purple and the air thick with the scent of wet stone and jasmine. I'd been holed up in the studio, a converted sunroom off the kitchen, nursing a sketchpad and a glass of Tinto de Verano, trying to capture the way the lightning fractured the horizon. Alina had wandered in around 9, her hair loose and wild, carrying a bottle of her family's homemade vino from the hills near Antequera. "Allison's train left an hour ago," she'd said, flopping onto the worn leather couch beside me. "The house feels too quiet. Drown it out with me." We talked for hours the way we always did when Allison was the buffer, about her abuela's stories of the Civil War, the way she'd smuggled canvases across borders as a girl, about my parents' messy divorce back in Portland, how I'd always been the fixer, patching up the silences with bad jokes and better drawings. The wine flowed, loosening tongues and inhibitions, until the rain turned vicious and the power flickered out, leaving us in the intimate glow of a single lantern. That's when it happened. One moment she was laughing at my impression of a pompous British tourist we'd met in Malaga, exaggerated accent, stiff upper lip, and the next, her hand was on my knee, thumb tracing lazy circles that sent sparks up my spine. "Jamie," she'd said, her voice dropping to that husky timbre that haunted my dreams. "Do you ever feel like you're living someone else's life? Like the person you love? She's wonderful, but she's not the one who sees you." I should have pulled away. Should have made an excuse about the storm or the late hour. But her eyes, those deep, fathomless pools, held mine, and I saw it there. The mirror of my own ache. The wanting I'd buried under layers of loyalty and denial. "Alina," I managed, my voice a rasp. "We can't." But she was already leaning in, her breath warm against my skin, and then her lips were on mine. Not tentative, not testing. A kiss that claimed, that poured out months of stolen glances and unspoken hungers. My hands found her waist, pulling her closer despite the scream in my head, the thunder outside echoing the chaos within. It lasted seconds, maybe minutes. Time blurred in the downpour, and when she broke away, her forehead pressed to mine, tears mixing with the rain on her cheeks, I knew nothing would ever be the same. "What the hell are we doing?" I whispered, shoving her back gently, my heart jackhammering against my ribs. She sank onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. "I don't know. God, Jamie, I love Allison. She's steady, she's kind. She's the future I thought I wanted. But you're the spark. The one who makes me feel alive, like every brushstroke matters. I've tried to ignore it, but tonight with her gone it just broke free." I paced the room, the lantern casting long shadows that danced like accusations. Outside, the wind howled through the Puente Nuevo gorge. A wail that matched the turmoil twisting my gut. Betrayal. That's what this was, sharp and silver-edged, slicing through the fragile web of our trio. Allison, who trusted us both implicitly. Me, who'd always been her shadow, her confidant. And Alina, the wild card who'd upended everything. "Tell me this isn't real," I begged, stopping in front of her, my voice cracking. "Tell me it's the wine, the storm, anything but us." She looked up, her dark hair framing a face pale and stricken. "I can't, because it is us. And it's terrifying." We sat there in silence as the rain eased to a patter, the lantern flickering like our resolve. I wanted to hate her, for crossing the line, for making me complicit in this fracture. But mostly, I hated myself for the traitorous thrill still humming in my veins, for the way her kiss lingered like a brand. By dawn we'd agreed. It was a mistake, a one-time slip born of isolation and impulse. We'd bury it, deep as the river below, and welcome Allison home with open arms and sealed lips. But secrets in Spain have a way of fermenting, turning sweet grapes to bitter wine. And as the sun crested the hills that morning, painting the villa in gold, I wondered how long we could pretend before the truth clawed its way out. The days blurred into a fragile normalcy after that night, like papering over a crack in fine china. You could see the fault line if you looked close enough. Allison returned from Madrid with armloads of artisanal cheeses and stories of tapas bars that stayed open till sunrise. Her energy a whirlwind that swept away the lingering fog in the villa. "Missed you girls," she declared, dumping her bags in the foyer and pulling us both into a group hug that smelled of train stations and her favorite citrus perfume. I hugged back too tight, my cheek pressed to her shoulder, guilt gnawing at me like a persistent Andalusian goat. Alina played her part flawlessly, kissing Allison with the fervor of a homecoming, her laughter bright as the Moorish tiles in the courtyard. But when our eyes met over Allison's head, there was a flicker, a shared shadow that made my stomach drop. We avoided being alone together, filling the hours with group outings, hikes through the cork oak forests where wild boars rustled in the underbrush, afternoons at the Ronda Bullring, now a museum, thank God, tracing the sand where Hemingway once watched men and beasts dance their deadly tango. "This place gets under your skin," Allison mused one evening, as we picnicked on Serrano ham and manchego under a sky bruised with sunset. "Like it's rewriting your story chapter by chapter." If only she knew how true that was. I threw myself into work, freelancing logos for local wineries via a spotty Wi-Fi connection that dropped more often than a flamenco dancer's fan. My sketches grew bolder, infused with the raw emotion Alina had always coaxed out of me. Swirling vines that choked stone walls, lovers' silhouettes blurred by mist. She'd wander into the studio sometimes, under the guise of borrowing a pencil or critiquing a draft, but her presence was a live wire, humming with what we'd left unsaid. That's powerful, she'd murmur, leaning over my shoulder, her breath stirring the fine hairs on my neck. You should exhibit it. Let the world see your fire. I'd mumble thanks and angle away, but the compliments lingered, warming the cold corners I'd wrapped around my heart. Nights were worse. I'd lie awake in my room, the one with the creaky wooden beams and a window framing the gorge, listening to the muffled sounds of Allison and Alina in the master suite down the hall, soft laughter, the rustle of sheets. Jealousy twisted like a knife, not just for what they shared, but for the lie I was living. Was this love? This ache that bloomed in secret, fed by stolen moments and imagined futures? 2 weeks after the kiss, the fault lines began to show. We were at a feria in a nearby village, the air thick with the sizzle of churros and the stomp of dancers in polka-dot dresses. Allison had wandered off to haggle for a ceramic azulejo tile at a stall, leaving Alina and me nursing sangria under a canopy of fairy lights. The music swelled. A guitar's mournful cry undercut by castanet's sharp click, and couples swirled around us, their joy a mocking contrast to the tension coiling between us. You've been quiet lately, Alina said, her fingers drumming the table's edge. Is it us? That night. I stared into my glass, the fruit slices floating like drowned dreams. What do you think? Every time I look at you, I see Allison's smile in your eyes. It's killing me. She reached across, her hand hovering near mine before retreating. I ended it in my head 1,000 times. But then you laugh at one of my stupid stories, or I catch you sketching the way the light hits your hair and bam, I'm lost again. A dancer bumped our table, spilling a splash of sangria across the wood. Laughter erupted nearby, but it felt miles away. We have to stop this, I said, my voice fierce, before it destroys everything. Allison deserves better than our wreckage. Alina's face crumpled just for a second, before she schooled it into that painter's mask, poised, enigmatic. You're right. Friends. That's all we can be. But as she said it, her eyes pleaded otherwise, and I wondered if either of us believed the words. Allison reappeared then, tile clutched triumphantly, oblivious to the undercurrent. Look at this beauty. It's going right above the mantel. Jamie, you're sketching the feria later, right? Capture the madness. She looped her arm through Alina's, pulling her into the dance floor's fray, and I watched them go, Allison's curls bouncing, Alina's hips swaying with innate rhythm, feeling like the outsider in my own story. That night, back at the villa, the crack widened. I'd retreated to the garden, a tangle of lemon trees and gravel paths lit by moonlight, my sketchpad forgotten on a bench. Footsteps crunched behind me, Alina of course. Can't sleep? She asked, settling beside me without invitation. Nope. You. She shook her head, plucking a lemon blossom and twirling it between her fingers. Allison's out like a light. She was buzzing about the tile all the way home. Thinks it'll anchor us here. Her voice dripped irony and I shot her a glare. Don't. She's trying, Alina. Building something real. Unlike us chasing ghosts. Is that what I am? A ghost. She turned, her profile sharp against the stars. High cheekbones, full lips parted in quiet hurt. Jamie, I didn't plan this. Falling for you. It snuck up like the mist off the gorge. One day I'm painting sunflowers for Allison's kitchen wall. The next I'm wondering what your hands would feel like on canvas. My breath hitched, the air between us charged like the moments before a storm. Stop. Please. But I didn't move away when she leaned closer, her shoulder brushing mine, the warmth seeping through my thin sweater. Tell me you don't feel it too, she challenged, her voice a whisper that carried on the night breeze. That pull, like gravity but sweeter. Like home. I closed my eyes, the admission burning on my tongue. I feel it. Every damn day. But loving her means not hurting her. And this? This is a bomb waiting to go off. She nodded slowly, the blossom wilting in her grip. Then let's defuse it. No more moments. No more almosts. Her hand found mine then, squeezing once, firm, final before letting go. We sat there until the chill drove us inside. The garden's shadows swallowing our pact like a confessional. But pacts are paper thin in the face of desire. The next morning Allison announced a surprise. A weekend getaway to Granada, to see the Alhambra at dawn. Just the three of us, she said, eyes alight. Recharge before I head back to the States for fundraising. The States? The word hung heavy. Allison's nonprofit was gaining traction. Whispers of board seats in San Francisco. Leaving Spain. Leaving us. As we packed, Alina and I moved like ghosts around each other, careful not to brush hands over shared luggage. But in the quiet of the drive, Allison at the wheel singing off-key to a playlist of Joni Mitchell covers, I caught Alina's gaze in the rearview, her eyes soft with unspoken longing. And in that moment, with the Sierra Nevada snow-capped peaks unfolding before us like a promise, I knew the bomb was already ticking. Granada welcomed us with its labyrinthine streets and the scent of incense from hidden mosques turned churches. We checked into a parador within the Alhambra's walls, a restored Moorish palace where every arch whispered of lost empires. Allison was in heaven, dragging us through courtyards of reflecting pools and intricate arabesques, her camera clicking like a heartbeat. "This is magic," she breathed, linking arms with us both, like stepping into a dream. That night, after a dinner of gazpacho and lamb tagine in the Albayacin Quarter, we climbed to a mirador overlooking the city, the Alhambra glowing like a jeweled crown against the velvet dark. Allison had brought a blanket, and we spread it on the stone, passing a thermos of hot chocolate laced with brandy. The stars were relentless, a canopy of diamonds that made earthly troubles feel small. But small they weren't. As Allison dozed against my shoulder, lulled by the warmth and wine, Alina shifted closer on my other side. "She's incredible, isn't she?" she murmured, her voice for my ears alone. "The way she loves without reservation. It's what drew me to her." "Yeah," I replied, throat tight. "It's her gift. And our curse." Alina's fingers grazed mine under the blanket. A feather touch accidental on purpose. What if we told her? Ripped off the bandage. Let the truth breathe. Panic surged, hot and immediate. And watch it shatter her? No. We'd lose her, Alina. Both of us. She withdrew her hand, but the damage was done. The spark reignited, flickering in the space between us. When Allison stirred, mumbling about the cold, we helped her up, the three of us stumbling back to the parador in a tipsy line, arms linked like nothing had changed. But everything had. The next day, as we wandered the General Life Gardens, perfumed with roses and the trill of nightingales, Allison pulled me aside, her expression uncharacteristically serious. "Jamie, you've been off lately. Distant. Is it the move? Missing home?" Guilt crashed over me like a wave. "Just adjusting, sis. Spain's intense." She hugged me, fierce and familiar. "You're my rock, you know that? And Alina, she adores you. Says you're the sister she never had." The irony stung, a barb I deserved. That afternoon, while Allison napped off the brandy, Alina cornered me in the hotel's library, a room of leather-bound tomes and dust-moted light. "We can't keep dancing around this," she said, her back against a shelf of faded Lorca poetry. "It's eating us alive." "Then what?" I demanded, voice low. "You choose? Me or her?" Her eyes welled, spilling over. "I can't. Because losing either of you would break me." The kiss that followed was inevitable. Desperate, devouring, her hands framing my face as if I were a masterpiece she feared would fade. We broke apart gasping, foreheads touching, the library's silence a conspirator. "This is the last time," I vowed, even as my body betrayed me, leaning in for more. "Liar," she whispered, but there was no accusation, only shared surrender. We emerged flushed, disheveled, to find Allison waiting in the courtyard, a knowing smile on her lips. "You two look like you've seen a ghost. Ready for the sunset tour." As we followed her through the Nasrid palaces, the weight of our deceit pressed heavier than the mountain air. The Alhambra, with its promises of paradise, felt like a gilded cage. And in the heart of it our secret bloomed, dark and thorny, waiting to ensnare us all. The drive back from Granada was a study in strained silences, the radio's flamenco strums filling the gaps where words failed us. Allison chattered about the Alhambra's fountains. "Did you hear how the water sings? Like it's alive." Her enthusiasm a lifeline I clung to, even as Alina's eyes burned holes in the back of my seat. I pressed my forehead to the window, watching the olive groves blur into silver-green streaks, each one a reminder of the roots we'd uprooted in our selfishness. How had we let it come to this? A kiss in a storm, a touch in the stars, and now the lie festered, poisoning the air we breathed. Back at the villa, the real world intruded like a rude guest. Allison's emails piled up. Offers from San Francisco firms, a potential grant that could fund her olive farm initiative for years. "This could be it, Jamie," she confided over breakfast one morning, her fork spearing a chunk of tortilla española. "A real shot at changing things. But it means going home. For good, maybe." Home. The word evoked Portland's rainy streets, our childhood home with its sagging porch swing and Mom's lavender bushes. But for me, home had become this: Rhonda's cliffs, the villa's leaky charm, the tangled lives we'd woven here. "What about Alina?" I asked, careful to keep my tone neutral. "She loves it here." Allison shrugged, a shadow crossing her face. "We've talked. Long distance could work, or she comes with me. But her art's tied to these hills. It's complicated." She reached for my hand, squeezing. "You'll come too, right? Can't leave me hanging in Cali without my backup." I nodded, the promise sticking like dry bread. "Wouldn't dream of it." Alina overheard, of course, lurking in the kitchen doorway, her sketchbook tucked under her arm like a shield. Later that afternoon, while Allison was out interviewing farmers for her project, she found me in the studio, charcoal dust on my jeans as I slashed at a canvas. 3 figures on a bridge, backs turned, the gorge yawning below. "It's beautiful," she said softly, "and brutal. Like us." I didn't look up. "Allison's leaving. Decided yet? California girl or Spanish siren?" She leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "Haven't told her. But if she goes, I don't know. Part of me wants to follow, build something stable. The other part screams to stay, paint until my hands bleed, metaphorically, of course." A wry smile, then it faded. "And you? You'd really go back? Leave this us?" "There is no us, Alina. Not without torching everything." I set the charcoal down, finally meeting her gaze. Her eyes, red-rimmed from sleepless nights, pleaded for absolution I couldn't give. "We made a choice that night. Stick to it." She stepped closer, the air thickening. "Choices change. Feelings don't." Her hand cupped my cheek, thumb brushing a smudge of black from my skin, and I leaned into it despite myself, the touch a balm and a burn. "Alina." It was a warning, a plea, but she silenced it with her lips, soft and searching, tasting of turpentine and tears. We sank to the floor amid scattered sketches, her body fitting against mine like a missing piece, whispers turning to sighs as the afternoon light slanted gold through the windows. It wasn't frenzied, not like the storm. It was slow, deliberate, a unraveling of the threads we'd tried to mend. Her fingers traced the curve of my spine, mapping territories Allison had never claimed, and in her arms, I found a peace I'd chased across oceans. Afterward, we lay tangled on the rug, breath sinking with the distant church bells tolling vespers. "This doesn't fix anything," I murmured, my head on her chest, hearing the steady thump that mirrored my own chaos. "No," she agreed, stroking my hair. "But it feels right. For now." Guilt crashed in waves as we dressed, the studio's mirrors reflecting 2 women marked by recklessness. We vowed again, last time final, vowing to end the affair before it bled into the open. But vows are whispers against the roar of the heart. The breaking point came a week later, on a sweltering July evening when the Sirocco wind turned the air to furnace breath. Allison had planned a farewell dinner. Her flight to San Francisco was in 3 days, and invited a handful of locals. The widow next door with her stories of the Republic, a young guitarist from the village who buskied for tourists. The courtyard table groaned under platters of gambas al ajillo, patatas bravas, and Alina's contribution. A paella simmered with saffron and secrets. I helped set the table, fairy lights strung overhead like hesitant stars, but my hands shook folding napkins, the linen crisp as lies. Alina avoided me, her laughter forced as she flirted with the guitarist, but her eyes sought mine across the flames of the grill, dark with unspoken need. Allison, radiant in a sundress printed with lemons, raised a glass as the first guests arrived. "To new beginnings," she toasted, her voice carrying over the clink of crystal. "To roots that run deep and wings that carry us far." We echoed the sentiment, but the words tasted like ash. Dinner unfolded in a haze of conversation, tales of the 1936 uprising, debates over whether tapas should be free with drinks, a Andalusian schism. But under the table, Alina's foot brushed mine, deliberate, a Morse code of desperation. I jerked away, spilling wine on the tablecloth, earning a concerned glance from Allison. You okay, Jamie? You look flushed. Fine, I lied, excusing myself to the kitchen for more ice. The cool tile underfoot grounded me, but then Alina was there, slipping in like smoke, her back to the door. We can't keep doing this, I hissed, gripping the counter. Not tonight. Not ever. I know. She closed the distance, her hands on my hips, pulling me flush. But one more time. To say goodbye properly. Her kiss was fire, urgent, and I melted into it, the ice bucket forgotten as we pressed against the cabinets, the world narrowing to the salt of her skin, the hitch of her breath. We didn't hear the door. Didn't register the footsteps until Allison's voice sliced through. What the actual fuck? Time froze. Allison stood in the threshold, an empty pitcher in her hand, her face a mask of disbelief cracking into horror. The courtyard laughter filtered in, oblivious, but in that kitchen the air turned to lead. Alina sprang back, her lips swollen, eyes wide with panic. Allison, it's not. Not what? Allison's voice rose, sharp as shattered glass. She dropped the pitcher. It rolled across the floor, a hollow clatter. My girlfriend and my sister? In our home? While I'm out there playing host to your friends. I stepped forward, hands raised like a supplicant. Allison, please. It was a mistake. One time. One time. She laughed, bitter and broken. Don't insult me. I saw the way you two danced around each other for months. The glances, the accidental touches. I thought it was nothing, sisterly stuff. But this. Tears tracked her cheeks, smudging her mascara into war paint. This is betrayal. From both of you. Alina reached for her, voice trembling. I love you. I do. But Jamie, she's. Save it. Allison backed away, bumping the table, sending a salt shaker tumbling. I trusted you. Both of you. And you repay me by screwing behind my back. The word landed like a slap, crude and American in its rawness, cutting through the Spanish evening. The guests must have heard the commotion. Murmurs rose from the courtyard, chairs scraping. But Allison didn't care. She whirled on me, eyes blazing. How long, Jamie? How long have you been coveting what's mine? It's not like that. I choked out, tears blurring her into a furious silhouette. I fought it. Every day. Not hard enough. She stormed out, shoving past the door, her sundress fluttering like a flag of surrender. We followed, Alina calling her name, me stumbling in shock, as she addressed the stunned table. Party's over, folks. Thanks for coming. Get out. The widow clucked sympathetically, the guitarist slunk away with awkward nods. Within minutes the courtyard emptied, leaving us in the wreckage. Half-eaten plates, toppled glasses, fairy lights mocking our ruin. Allison retreated to the master suite, slamming the door with finality. Alina and I hovered outside, exchanging wretched glances. Let me talk to her, I said, but Alina shook her head. No. This is on me. I started it. She knocked softly. Allison? Please. Open up. Silence, then a muffled sob that tore at us both. Go away. Both of you. We obeyed, retreating to the garden like chastened children. The sirocco moaned through the trees, carrying the scent of impending rain. What now? Alina whispered, sinking onto the bench. I don't know. I sat beside her, the space between us vast as the gorge. But we've destroyed her. Us. She took my hand, cold and clammy. Worth it. I yanked away, the question a fresh wound. Don't. Just. Don't. Dawn found us there, exhausted sentinels, as the first drops fell. Allison emerged hollow-eyed, bags packed at her feet. I'm taking the first train to Malaga. Then the plane. Don't follow. Allison, we chorused, but she held up a hand. Save your apologies. They'll mean nothing until you figure out what this was. Her gaze flicked between us, lingering on Alina with a pain that eclipsed anger. I loved you. Thought we were building something real. Turns out it was all smoke. She hugged me then, brief, bone-crushing, whispering, You're still my sister. But this? It'll take time. To Alina, nothing. Just a nod, final as a full stop. As her taxi crunched down the drive, Alina and I stood frozen, the rain washing away the night's grime but not the guilt. The villa, once a haven, echoed with absence. And in the downpour our love, newborn, bloodied, curled small and shivering at our feet. The weeks after Allison's departure stretched like the endless Andalusian plains, barren, baked under a merciless sun that offered no mercy. The villa felt gutted, its rooms echoing with the phantom clatter of her laughter, the scent of her citrus perfume clinging to linens like a ghost. I threw myself into sketches, blackening reams of paper with images of fractured bridges and shadowed figures, each stroke a confession I couldn't voice. Alina retreated to her easel, her canvases turning savage, abstracts of crimson storms devouring blue skies, lovers torn asunder by invisible hands. We coexisted in brittle politeness, coffee shared in silence, groceries divided by rote, but the air crackled with the unsaid, our bodies magnets pulling despite the pain. Emails from Allison came sporadically at first, curt updates on San Francisco's fog-shrouded hills, the nonprofit's office in a converted warehouse by the bay. Board meeting went well. Thinking of you both, not in a good way but still thinking. No calls, no video chats. I'd stare at my phone, thumb hovering over her contact, composing apologies that deleted themselves before sending. I'm sorry felt too small, a pebble tossed into the gorge. What I owed her was the truth. That my love for Alina had roots deeper than betrayal, twisted around the same soil that fed Allison's heart. Alina broke first about a month in. It was a Tuesday, the kind where the heat waves danced off the gravel drive like mocking spirits. She'd been in the studio all morning, turpentine fumes seeping under the door, when she emerged wild-eyed, a half-finished canvas under her arm. Look at this, she demanded, thrusting it at me. It was me anyway, my profile etched in bold ochres and umbers, eyes turned toward an unseen horizon, a faint outline of Allison's hand fading from my shoulder. It's intense, I said, tracing the brushstrokes with a finger, feeling the ridges like Braille's secrets. It's truth. She paced the kitchen, her linen shirt untucked, hair a dark halo. I can't paint around it anymore. Every line leads back to you. To what we did. I set the canvas down carefully, as if it might shatter. And Allison? Does she get a stroke? Or are we erasing her now? She stopped, deflating. No. Never. But she's gone, Jamie. And we're here drowning in what-ifs. What-ifs don't build bridges. I turned to the sink, scrubbing a mug that didn't need it, the water scalding my skin. She needs time. We need to give it. Alina's arms wrapped around me from behind, chin on my shoulder. And us? Do we wait forever? Turn this into a mausoleum for a love that never was. I twisted in her embrace, facing her, close enough to count the flecks of gold in her irises, to see the exhaustion etched in fine lines around her mouth. It was real. Is real. But at what cost? Her kiss was answer enough, gentle, exploratory, a question posed in the press of lips. We moved to the couch, shedding clothes like old skins, our touches reverent, mapping scars both seen and unseen. In the quiet aftermath, with sunlight slanting through shutters like prison bars, she traced patterns on my arm. Move in with me properly. Here or back to my family's finca near Antequera. Let's make it ours. The words hung, tempting as forbidden fruit. And when Allison comes around, when she wants to visit or forgive, then we face it. Together. Her optimism, so quintessentially American despite her Spanish blood, chipped at my resolve. But life, that indifferent puppeteer, had other strings to pull. 2 days later, a call from Seattle. Mom, her voice tinny over the line, delivered the blow. Your dad's had a stroke, Jamie. Not fatal, but he's in rehab. Allison's flying up from Cali tonight. She asked if you'd come too. The world narrowed to the phone's hum. Dad, stoic, beer-bellied, the man who'd taught us to fish in the Columbia River's muddy bends. Of course, I said, throat closing. I'll book a flight. Alina found me in the garden, booking tickets on my laptop, tears blurring the screen. Go, she said, kneeling beside me, her hand on my knee. Family first. You're not coming? It was half joke, half hope. She shook her head, sorrowful. This is your story with them. I'll hold the fort. Paint something hopeful for once. The flight to Seattle was a red-eye purgatory, turbulence mirroring my innards. Allison met me at baggage claim, her curls pulled into a hasty ponytail, eyes shadowed but warm when they landed on me. Hey, cease. The hug was awkward, arms stiff, but it was a start. No venom, just the raw edge of grief. We drove to the hospital in her rental Prius, the Space Needle looming like a forgotten landmark against drizzly skies. "Dad's stable," she said, navigating rain-slicked I-5. "Aphasia, some mobility issues. But he's fighting." A pause heavy as the evergreens. "Jamie. About Spain." My heart stuttered. "Yeah. I'm not ready to unpack it. Not here, not now. But I miss you. And her. It's messed up, but it's there." Tears pricked. "I miss you too. More than anything." Dad's room smelled of antiseptic and wilted flowers. His frame diminished in the bed. One side of his mouth tugged in a lopsided grin when he saw us. "Girls," he rasped, words slurred but spirit intact. We sat vigil. Allison reading him Hemingway aloud, me sketching his gnarled hands clutching the bedsheet, the old rhythms resurfacing, fragile but familiar. Nights we'd crash at Mom's, the house a time capsule of our teens. Allison's debate trophies on the mantel, my old band posters peeling from walls. Over takeout faux Mom's comfort food. We'd tiptoe around the elephant, talking Dad's rehab instead. But one evening after Mom had gone to bed, Allison poured us whiskey in the kitchen, the amber liquid glinting like truth serum. "I keep replaying it," she said, staring into her glass. "Walking in on you too." The shock gutted me. Like losing a limb. "I'm so sorry," I whispered, the words inadequate. "It wasn't planned. Just happened. Over and over because we were weak." She nodded slow. "I know. And part of me gets it, the pull, the forbidden thrill. Hell, I felt sparks with friends before. But family? That's the knife twist." A sip then. "Do you love her?" "Alina." The question hung, demanding honesty. "Yes. Deeply. But not at your expense. Never meant to." Allison's laugh was watery. "Love's a thief, isn't it? Steals in quiet, leaves wreckage." She set her glass down, meeting my eyes. "I don't hate you, Jamie. Or her. But trust? That's shattered. Rebuildable maybe, but it'll scar." We cried then. Ugly shoulder-heaving sobs that Mom pretended not to hear from upstairs. By dawn a tentative peace. No full forgiveness but a door cracked open. "Come to San Fran when Dad's better," she said, hugging me goodbye at the airport. "We'll figure it. Sisters first." Back in Rhonda, Alina waited like a sentinel, her latest painting propped in the foyer. The three of us on that Granada blanket, faces turned to the stars, hands intertwined not in division but unity. What if," she explained when I traced the hopeful lines. "The ending we deserved." I pulled her close, the canvas pressing between us like a vow. Maybe we can still write it. But fate, ever the dramatist, had one more act. A letter arrived a week later, handwritten. Allison's looping script on Villa stationery she'd swiped. "Alina," it began. "I kept this from Jamie. Needed to say it to you alone." I handed it over, heart pounding as she read aloud, voice faltering. Tales of her flight home, the hollow ache of empty seats. Confessions of her own doubts, fears that their love had been more habit than heat. "I saw it in your eyes that last night, the way you looked at her. It hurt, but it freed me too. To see clearly. I forgive you not because it's easy, but because holding the grudge poisons me more. Go be happy. With her. Just send pictures of the villa. I want to remember it whole." Alina wept, the letter crumpling in her fist, and I held her through it, the rain starting again outside. A cleansing, not a storm. Forgiveness, tentative as a truce, bloomed in the wet earth. But with it came the real conflict. What now? Rebuild with Allison's blessing or forge ahead, knowing the scar tissue might pull tight? We chose the latter, packing for Antequera that weekend, Alina's family finca, a rambling estate of almond groves and sun-baked patios. "Our start," she called it, loading canvases into the car. But as we drove the winding roads, the Sierra's shadows lengthening, doubt gnawed. Was this redemption or just another evasion? The finca was a world unto itself. Acres of terraced hills dotted with gnarled almonds heavy with promise. A stone farmhouse that creaked like an old storyteller under the weight of generations. Alina's family welcomed me warily at first. Her abuela sharp as aged manchego, eyeing me over her crochet as if weighing my worth in silken threads. Her cousins boisterous with guitars and gossip, teasing Alina about the American who stole your heart from the lawyer. But warmth seeped in slowly, over shared meals of migas and vino de la casa. Their acceptance a quiet revolution that mended something frayed in me. We claimed the East Wing. A sun-drenched suite with arched windows framing the endless blue of the Vega. Days fell into a rhythm. Mornings sketching in the groves where bees hummed hymns to the blooms. Afternoons tangled in bedsheets, our love unfolding without the shadow of secrecy. Tender explorations that spoke of healing more than haste. Evenings we'd cook. Me chopping garlic with amateur flair. Alina stirring pots with the grace of ritual. Then dance barefoot on the patio to radio rancheras, her laughter free and full. Yet the idyll carried undercurrents. Ripples from the gorge we'd leaped. Emails from Allison evolved. From sparse check-ins to tentative shares. Photos of San Francisco's Golden Gate wreathed in mist. Updates on Dad's progress gripping a fishing rod again. Tell Alina her paella recipe saved a donor dinner. One read. And Jamie? Rehab's teaching me patience. Wish you were here to mock my terrible yoga form. We'd reply in tandem, a joint front. Jokes about Sirocco winds, sketches of the Finca's cats. No deep dives into us, but the subtext hummed. Forgiveness as a slow thaw. The climax brewed on a crisp October morning, when the almonds cracked open like secrets underfoot. A package arrived from California. Allison unannounced, her handwriting on the customs label. Inside, a leather-bound journal, pages filled with her looping prose. Entries from Spain, raw with love for Alina's fire. Confusion over our bond, the gut punch of discovery. I thought I was the center, one page confessed. Turns out love's a constellation. Messy, overlapping stars. Tucked between airline tickets. Round trip, Rhonda to San Francisco, dated for the following week. A note. Come home. All three of us. Talk. Really talk. No more ghosts. Alina found me in the grove, journal clutched to my chest, tears carving tracks through almond dust. She's ready, I said, handing her the tickets. For whatever this becomes. Her face lit, then shadowed. And if it's not what we want? If she wants me back, or neither? I pulled her down to the earth, our backs against a tree trunk rough as truth. Then we face it. Like adults. Like the women she deserves. The flight was a gauntlet of nerves. Turbulence over the Atlantic mirroring our innards. Allison met us at San Francisco Airport. Her curls windswept. A tentative smile breaking through airport fluorescence. The hug encompassed all three, awkward, encompassing. Her arms pulling us close in a knot of limbs and lingering hurt. You came, she murmured, voice thick. Couldn't not, Alina replied, and in her eyes the gratitude shone pure. We decamped to Allison's Marina District apartment. A airy space of exposed brick and succulents. Bay views that stretched to infinity. Over takeout burritos, California's greasy solace, we talked. Really talked. Hours bled into night, wine loosening tongues. Allison voicing the betrayal's sting, how it had unearthed old wounds from our parents' split. Alina owning her cowardice, the fear of choosing that paralyzed her. Me, the fixer, admitting my role in the fracture, the selfish joy I'd stolen in shadows. Why us? Allison asked at one point, her blue eyes searching ours. What pulled you together when I was right there? Alina took her hand, then mine, bridging the circle. You were the foundation, steady, beautiful. But Jamie. She's the wild root, the one that twists deep and surprises you. It wasn't about less love for you. It was more for both. I nodded, throat tight. You complete us, Allison. Not in pieces but whole. Messy whole. Tears fell, but so did laughter. Gallows humor over the absurdity. Toasts to love's bad math. By midnight, exhausted and exposed, we crashed on her pull-out couch. A pile of sisters and almosts. The city's hum a lullaby. Dawn brought clarity, not closure. Over coffee on the balcony, fog rolling in like absolution. Allison laid it bare. I can't go back, not as before. Too much changed. But forward? As friends, family. Whatever this evolves into. I'm in. Relief crashed, sweet as Pacific waves. No tidy bows, no erasure of scars, just a humanistic truce, acknowledging love's many faces. Romantic, platonic, familial, all intertwined. Alina and I would return to Spain, nurture our bloom. Allison root deeper in Cali, her nonprofit a beacon for fractured lives. Visits promised, Thanksgivings in Portland, summers in Rhonda. Threads weaving a new tapestry. As we hugged goodbye at the gate, Allison's arms fierce around us both. I felt the weight lift, not gone but shared. Write the ending, she whispered, echoing her journal. Make it kind. Back in Andalusia, the villa waited, leased long-term as a neutral ground. We moved in together, Alina and I, filling it with canvases and sketches, the courtyard echoing with our joys. One evening, as olive lanterns glowed and the gorge whispered below, a package arrived. Allison's, a mosaic tile from Granada, 3 interlocking pieces, gold-veined and resilient. We hung it above the mantel, a talisman, and in its gleam I saw our story, not a betrayal's wreckage but a testament. Love in all its drama and grace, human and flawed, bending but never breaking. In Spain's ancient heart, with America's restless spirit, we'd found our constellation. Stars aligned, not in perfection, but in profound, enduring light.